panel, înainte de lunch break, și îl invit alături de mine pe domnul vicepreședinte și fondator al CIO Council, domnul Călin Rangu. Ți inviți tu sau ți invit eu? Îi invit eu. Pe paneliștii noștri, Cristian Rebegea, CISO, Chief Information Security Officer în cadrul Czech Bank. Mulțumim pentru suport. Este cel care a câștigat premiul de CISO al anului 2025. Îl invit de asemenea pe domnul director Gabriel Dinu, Deputy Director în cadrul DNSC. V-am spus că aducem două personaje cele mai importante din DNSC. Domnul Adrian Avadanei, director general BIT Sentinel, mulțumim că sunteți alături de noi. Domnul Cristi Goiceanu, CISO, Chief Information Security Officer în cadrul Banca Comercială Română Erste Bank, and Mr. Martin Scheidel. I'm not sure if I'm pronounced correct, but sorry for that. And I forgot, we will discuss in English this panel. Executive Enterprise Architect from ServiceNow. Thank you, Martin. Călin, you've got the floor.
Hello to everyone. Our panel is after this presentation very interesting about the Greek philosophy. And in effect, it's linked a little to us because if you look at the first slide, it was one of the 3 lesson learned from author in this from NIS. Lesson learned 3 is from compliance to character. So we'll speak here about resilience and compliance, and maybe we can add also character to this compliance. Probably the people who are implementing only compliance to be compliant don't have professional character because in fact they don't implement real resilience, but this will be a subject of us after that. And the second lesson, it was vigilance is a virtue. So if you are applying this philosophy in cybersecurity, means that who is not vigilant is a vicious person, no? Or something like this, if vigilance is a virtue. But we will start to our panel for today. Thank you to Hugo for presentation of our panelists. The main topics that we'll speak today, it's about this, how is the resilience today? Is more compliance on paper or it's a real resilience? Which is the hardest part of the implementing NIS and DORA, technology, processes or people? How the board actually act? It was a discussion about investments. Now the boards are more open. You are more successful to ask money from them and to implement security solutions. Where are the biggest gap between regulatory expectation and operational reality? And will regulation keep pace with emerging technologies like AI? So these are the main topics. And thank you very much for the panelists for their contribution. I will start with the first one question for all of you about this NIS2 DORA. It's a real increase of resilience and is more treated like a compliance issue in this moment. People are doing more papers and we'll see how the resilience will act later. Please. We'll start.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, it's very simple in the same time.
Yeah.
Very simple in the same time, very complex, this question. Yes, from compliance, I can say, at least for my company, we have very high level of maturity related to paper compliance. It's clear. We had in the last year a lot of audits, thank you, Mr. Tudor. A lot of controls, regulatory, and not only. Frameworks, methodology, we updated very well, very, very well. But if we are going to true resilience, we done important steps, but we are still not there up where we want to be. And here, if we are looking back to a little to DORA, and to not forget, we didn't discuss today about cyber test. We know all the national bank cyber test. This test, it was very good for us to understand, to improve, and to know exactly where we are related to resilience if we are looking from outside the company. It's very important. And if we are going to DORA, we know very well that DORA is starting with complex assessment, around 90 points. And from these 90 points, if I remember well, around 30 points from this DORA assessment was not about documentation paper, it was about tooling, okay? About tooling from infra perspective, from security perspective, to understand where we are and what we must do in order to increase this resilience. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So, from the NSHS perspective, you are covering the 90s economical sector. Maybe we don't have a maturity level like in banking and finance, and it's other type of problems. But in principle, the methodology should be quite similar. So how we are seeing this, the assurance of resilience, despite only compliance?
Our tool right now is the NIS2 directive that we're using on the 18 sectors covered by the directive. It's complementary to the DORA. Of course, we don't see the same level of maturity in the other sectors as we see, for example, in the banking sector. But we are deeply preoccupied in dealing with the necessity to have more risk-based approach and a proportional approach in terms of the regulation that we are going to implement in NIS2. So we will have the SciFan ready to be published in a couple of days, I hope. We already have it in public transparency since the beginning of the year, translated in Romanian, and we are working on it with our partners from the other countries that are using cyber fundamentals to have the same web page used for every language that these countries are speaking, starting from Dutch, French, English, and so on. What we are looking at right now, we had the first NIS implementation. We've covered around almost 1,000 entities that we've managed until the NIS under the NIS1. We've seen very big differences in the approach. So sadly, many of the entities, especially the ones which lack the necessary resources and especially human resources, they tend to have a more paper compliance and a more superficial approach. But on the other hand, there are some entities that are treating things with a lot of seriousness. So we are trying right now to develop the tools that we need in order to have a better knowledge of what is going on actually in the market and a better understanding. We will have the maturity self-assessment that needs to be done yearly and sent to us directly, which will have also attached to it plan measures for the measures that will need to be implemented in order to address the gap. So this is a tool that we will use to directly see what is going on to each entity, and it will give us the possibility to directly assess statistically, for example, who is going out of the curve, and it seems like an exception on the sector, on the type of entity. So that will give us clues to go there and make a thorough check. Also, we will be, just like we did on the NIS2 implementation, we will be imposing the obligation to have a pen test, not only an audit, a paper audit. so that we can have also another possibility to check the reality in terms of implementing the measures. Also, the tool that we are using, the Cyfan, I believe that because it consists in very clear controls that need to be implemented by the organization, it's a lot more precise than the regulation that we had under the NIS1. And I hope that it will help us and it will help the entities to really implement cybersecurity measures. And also I want to say one more thing. We want to establish a very honest relation with the stakeholders. So what we want to have a clear image on the reality that we are handling right now. We are aware that implementing cybersecurity measures, especially for entities that don't traditionally have such a high maturity, it's going to be a journey. It's probably going to be a difficult one, but we want to be in check with the reality and to make sure that as long as we have, as I said before, an honest relation and an honest conversation about what the entities are dealing with, we can actually advance without the fear of DNSC checking out to see if we are not compliant only to give us a fine. So we want to have not only a authority to entity that needs to obey the rules relation, but also a kind of cooperation, direct cooperation with the entities in order to support them to grow in this field. Thank you. Sorry for speaking too much.
No problem. Anyway, it's a good news that in few days this Cyfan standard will appear. This is very important for market. I don't know if financial authorities will impose any standard related to this Cyfan. It's a NIST modified standard, and it's very known in banking. Can be any control points in this moment. And maybe I will switch a little to the BCR because it's more linked to banking sector, and after that we are going to the two providers that they are having other perspective from outside of the clients, financial clients or economy. How you are seeing this BCR? Of course, it's a BCR. It's a very big bank, similar with Czech. Very probably they have everything. At my training at Romanian Banking Institute, and I should mention that we are having also Romanian Banking Institute today with us as a General Director, Mrs. Savu is here. I mentioned that 20 years ago when I was CIO in a big bank, I had 80% of DORA implemented because our best practices there is not something new. How you are seeing from your case, but your case it's a exception maybe probably in the environment and in general in banking sector, this resilience of the banking financial sector entities and compliance perspective.
First of all, hello everybody. So, and thank you for the question and thank you for the invitation. I would say that banking sector has a privilege to deal with the customer's trust. And in our case, or in our world now, is dealing with the digital trust of the customers. Therefore, resilience of the banking services, it's a key element that it's discussed all the time on the corridors, in the board meetings, in different kind of meetings. And from this perspective, cyber risk is just one of the, I would say, risks that we are talking about, discussing about the service resilience. So from this point of view, DORA or NIS, in the financial sector, it's basically DORA, Lex Specialis, but NIS, it's a kind of similar, I would say, regulation that applies to other industries. What they are bringing, I really think that they are bringing a good framework in which each and every pieces that we are having has to have a specific place and bring order from this perspective. It's not about having I would say, a new approach. It's not about having a completely different, I would say, view about security or cybersecurity in this respect, because as you said, many of the, I would say, requirements are old, or it's a kind of best practice, are hygiene requirements from different perspectives, as you see. But what really happened, it's just set a kind of minimum standards we are talking about. And honestly speaking, with or without these standards, each and every company has to do something, because otherwise market is far away. This is in my view, the main element. And as I said, to lose the digital trust, it's very easy for whatever institution we should talk about. But to gain it will be very, very complicated. And in this respect, DORA helps to keep basically the customer digital trust in the financial sector, and this is a key element. It's a good regulation, yes and no, as each and every regulation has the strong points and the weak points, definitely. But here, what I want to say is that it's very important to have the counterparts to discuss with, and here NBR it's a really good counterpart. We are discussing and consulting with, because definitely, or different kind of, I would say, terms from DORA and the RTSs and so on. Sky is the limit in assessing how to do it, practically. And here it's very good to have good counterparts to discuss with, to consult with, and to choose a kind of common ground. And NBR, it's quite a good partner in this respect.
Do you see useful National Bank of Romania, ASF, to implement, national authorities to implement a common standard similar with SIFAN also for banking, to have a common base for self-assessment? And when they said the bank X has a maturity comparable with the bank Z, if each bank will apply different standards, probably the benchmark cannot be used for comparison?
Definitely, whatever brings clarity and, I would say, easiness to assess how to implement specific requirements, definitely it's a plus. Now, because we are talking about maturity levels, then we will have different discussions about, okay, dimension of the financial institution, what kind of maturity assessment will be applicable for big banks, small banks, medium banks, and so on. But it's I would say, a further step.
This is a nice part of SIFAN, because there are three levels for small, medium, and complex enterprises, I know, and the assessment is different based on the principal proportionality, of course, used also in the finance sector. Thank you very much. Now we are moving to our providers with the same question, how they are seeing this DORA NIS2 implementation. Their client became more resilient. For a moment, they are too busy with papers, and resilience will be later.
Well, from our point of view, so we've been doing both NIS1 and also consultancy for NIS2. We have seen companies that initially started and focused primarily on policies and procedures, because they are easier to implement, easier to adapt and adopt within the companies. But the main challenge is that you are pushing a very large number of pieces of paper to your advisory board, your management team, to sign, and they don't know and don't understand what they are signing for, and then they realize that they need to implement those things. So this is where the main challenge happens. I've seen a small change during NIS2, primarily because you have right now dedicated positions for advising the management team. They need to be accepted as part of the decision board, so that we see somehow a change. So they propose these papers, we need to adapt to SIFAN, we need to make proper changes within our policies and procedures, but at the same time, they ask for money from day one. So this is a very good thing this is a very good improvement. On the other hand, the main issue is that in comparisons, for instance, with the financial sector, with the banks, other industries don't have this maturity level already established within the organization. So first of all, they don't have the budget most of the time, so they need to make shortcuts, adopt open source technologies and things like this, which is a good thing on one hand, but at the same time it creates a complicated environment. Second, they don't have a prior experience in regulation, so they are quite scared about what is going to happen. And for that, you need, advisory, which comes usually from third parties, from external CISOs, and so on and so forth. So I would say it's a challenging period for them. When it comes to NIS2, DORA, and many other regulation, I see that mature companies try to feed them all and see only the differences, while the similarities are more, let's say, straightforward for them. Whereas for a new company which comes is under NIS2, for instance, just from now, it's much more difficult because they pretty much start from zero, from scratch. So you need to educate the organization, the board, the teams, and everybody for that. Yeah, and it takes
months.
You cannot do that. Yeah.
You are speaking about people, and people are not liking too much to change themselves and to change how they are working. Yeah. ServiceNow, a lot of people are, when we're speaking, which is a solution to implement DORA and NIS, ServiceNow is on the list of these solutions. How we are seeing from your implementation this perspective, resilience and compliance, based more on principles, not in reality?
Yeah, so thank you for the questions. I think I can reflect on all the questions you asked so far. My customers are sitting all over Central Europe. I'm an enterprise architect, so I want to bring together all the different pieces and bytes of the organization from a technical perspective, of course, but also from the integrational part of people, process. It's always the three things you have to combine. And I'm working also a lot with the German customers, and Germany is always, we know it, they are very good in gold plating and always want to be perfect. And they did it over the last decades, and they had IT as an example. So they were very familiar with all the disciplines we found now in DORA again and in NIS again. But what I saw is they have a high maturity in all the disciplines on their own. And they were working in these silos, and these silos were not talking to each other. And because they were not talking to each other, they had all their own perspective on their truths. And there was no common truth in the middle. So there was not one truth where you can say, we have these, let's say, solutions providing these critical business functions we're talking about in DORA. And that was the first question was, what are the critical business functions, And what they learned is that they always tried to do their best, and they were very compliant. They were on a very high level. But when you look now on a horizontal view, where all the business is delivered, how is it protected? How is it resilient? How is it really working? Are all the metrics and all the policies which are in place really working? Then you see the reality is the same reality like all the others have. I won a bet with one of the CISOs who said, we have to do an assessment, and he engaged one of the big four, and I said, I give you a letter writing down now what the findings will be in half a year. And he said, never ever, and I put it, and we put it in an envelope, and then he got it, he paid $1 million with one of the large vendors, and he got exactly what I told him. Because it was not surprising, the things are compliant but not effective. And so the learnings was that they all have to work together on the same data set, on the same information. The CISOs and the CIOs have to work together. And the key is always the data. I read a book of a German author recently about the learnings of DORA, and they found out what I'm talking personally about since more than 20 years. It's about the CMDB. Knowing what you have, knowing why you have it, how these things are working together. And the CMDB is one central element of our solution as an example. So that you see which functions do you have, how do you support the business, how are the technical services delivered, what is the technology behind the technical service, and so on. And then you have the third-party vendors. We heard it in the different presentation. You have the risk coming with third-party. You have the risk with all the other risk vectors are coming. Yeah? And it's also the resilience. It's the same structure. And now after the first round of DORA, I talked again to a German auditor of BaFin, which is the authority in Germany, and they said, yeah, we got the register of information, and everybody was working on it, and the first findings we had is the register of information seemed to make a little bit of sense. But when we are asking back, how do you think, why is this the amount of critical business functions? How do you came to it? They go back to the back office or the middle office in the banks and ask them, how do you find it? And they say, we produced this Excel sheet. And then they find out they produced plenty of Excel sheets. And they mixed it and shaked it, and at the end there was a register of information. And when they're asking back now, they cannot find the answer. Where was it coming from? Who was providing this part of the information? Who thought this is the technology involved? Who thought this is the external provider involved? And so on. And they have no common idea. So the risk register is based on a different information than the resilience register, and so on. So what we are doing is combining it, and we have it from, as I said, from our customers. We have some here sitting. Yeah, Rebegea is part of our Erste Banking group, and Erste Banking is one of the largest customers here in Central Europe. We have down to Cyprus with other banks. We have Polish banks. We have all the German banks. We have the Sparkassen group in Germany, which is serving up to 100 of the small Sparkassen. And they all, the saving banks, the saving banks, they have all the same issues. So the maturity is not really depending on the size of the bank. They have all the same situation. They don't know how they produce it, for whom they're producing, who is consuming it, is it really the end customer, is it the business customer, and who is really doing it. So my learnings from all this together is the most important perspective is to keep your data together and build one common place of truth for all the information you need and work on top of this. And to make it effective, you have to speed up rapidly, because when the bank's still working in all their silos, it will not work and it will not protect you. So that things will not get effective. You will have a better documentation, you will have another check mark behind the compliance, but it will not help you. And that's exactly what the European Union was aiming for with all their laws they're bringing now with the Cybersecurity Plan 2030. So the DORA is just one part of it. NIS2 is another part of it, but all the other CRA, it's also effective for the banks and so on. They all have to fit together, and sorry to say it this way, they should not be a pain in the ass, they should help you. And we can make it effective with our customers, and we are demonstrating it on a daily basis, and it's really working. And the fun fact is that they can, at the end of the day, when they implement it the way it is designed, do much more with the same amount of people and have less pain and less auditory pain, because the auditors and the audit should not take endless, half a year audit for DORA, and you've completed it, and the next audit is here again for whatever other law. You have many on the table. You don't have just DORA. You have plenty of it, and they should work out of all the same data. They should collect the information, and an audit should be more or less done within a few days. And that's where the Germans are aiming for now. And they also have to restructure it and work nearer together. So it's again, people, process, and technology together.
And you mentioned about third-party risk management, and it was a presentation of Bitdefender when sound like it was a surprise that banks and companies are responsible for their providers, and third-party risk management is very clear from this perspective. How you are treating the relation with the clients, and this question is for all, also for banks. You receive new appendix to contracts from clients with all the clauses requested by DORA. Like example, exit. How you assure the exit if the client should write to you in the contract that if they ask, you should agree and very fast exit from the contract with you. Because you are covering asset management. Asset management sustain a critical function, all critical function of the institution finally.
Yeah. So third-party risk management is a thing which has to change dramatically, because what we see in the implementations is usually you have a huge time when you onboard a new provider. Yeah, you invest a lot of intelligence in your company to negotiate this term and this clause and everything. And once the contract is closed, you put it somewhere under the desk and forget it. And what we do now is we really put all the different clauses in pieces, put it into the systems, make it readable. We use a lot of AI to understand it, to analyze it, to hang it on the contracts, split it up, connect it to the service level agreements, to the entitlements. So what can you get from your provider? What should you get? What are the conditions? What are the terms behind it? It's not only the financial terms, it's really the technical conditions, it's the security conditions and everything. Mm-hmm. And put this together and make it really working for you. So enable the data you have already. And this is a little bit of pain, of course, for the providers, but also the providers have to change dramatically. So we have very often banking providers in the group. There's an IT group banking provider, and they think they are safe because they are under their mother's hood and they are
applying
protected.
Similarly also to them. It's not any difference.
Yeah.
Based on DORA, it's not any difference if the provider is part of the group or not.
Yeah, and they are all affected, and it's the same with NIS2. Now we have the same story again. And banking may be more or less affected by NIS2 or be separated because DORA is overruling the NIS2 rules. But in fact, they are not talking about always the same things. Yeah, and the NIS2 is a little bit more about the physical assets and where the data is protected.
It's quite clear. Thank you very much. From a bank perspective, how you saw this relationship? You had any issues with the providers, or you are too big that the providers negotiate easier with you the contracts, the new contracts based on DORA, the new clauses?
Honestly, yeah, the size sometimes matters. This is true, but also it's on the other hand side very true. So discussing with Amazon or discussing with Microsoft, it's the same, I would say, discussion, but on vice versa way. So this is clear. So the size really does matter. It's not easy, I would say. Yeah, different perspective of different kind of clients. If DORA is applying to them or not, if they support a critical function or not, different kind of questions, different kind of, I would say, words to be used. At the end, it's just an art of negotiation, how to do it, what to put there. And another important point, it's exactly what my colleague said, to come with something which really have sense for them. So just to have a kind of, I would say, standard addendum with DORA clauses
you are improving, in fact, their maturity, and it's a transfer from your maturity to their maturity.
Yeah, it's not helping. It's not helping. And here, it's a lot of work behind.
Thank you. From your side, you have also clients that send to you contracts related to DORA?
Yes.
I saw few are only one page with text is from DORA, put it directly in the contracts, and the provider don't understand something what they need to do there because...
Only one page? I cannot imagine that. I mean, we saw this kind of approach as well. As already mentioned, this is happening primarily as a negotiation act. So you start trying to mediate, the requirements against also the importance of the service you are delivering, because sometimes, checking all the boxes might be much more expensive than actually delivering the entire service for an entire year. So in some situations, it doesn't make sense. Of course, at the same time, as I mentioned in the first interaction, the compliance part is much more easier to adopt. The actual challenge is to apply all the changes within the organization. So for that, you need to step in and do something. Otherwise, it's just going to be another piece of paper that you are accepting as a risk. And when incident happens, because they are going to happen, it's a matter of when, not if, then most likely you will have to have both a technical challenge to respond to that incident, but at the same time you might also have things to act with your partners, with your former customers, most likely.
From the side of the authority, the NSC, what recommend to a lot of clients, more than in banking sector, that should have a third-party risk management? And the second question, I saw in the previous Mastercard presentation a ranking of the providers. Do you think also to have a sort of ranking of the providers from this perspective and to be recorded in a way or other, to be easier the life of the final clients?
Yeah. So in terms of NIS2, as you said before, we are covering 18 sectors. And the entities vary a lot, starting from size to different business models and so on. So as I said before, we are very concerned about proportionality. Of course, the cybersecurity requirements will have, and the law asks for covering the issue of the contracts with third parties and managing the supply chain security, but the requirements are broad and not very specific for the reason that I said before, because it is very difficult to have a very on-point approach for such a eclectic mass of entities. So at this point, it's going to be, the requirement will be general. Of course, it is there. It has been there since the NIS1. Many people did not actually identify it in the cybersecurity requirements that the NSC has emitted, but it was there. And I understand that it's also very difficult for some of the entities to deal with big suppliers, especially, or for many of the entities, they lack the maturity to really understand how to put it in the contract and how to deal with, how to negotiate with, what to negotiate with a supplier. In terms of supply chain, we have some provisions in the NIS2, and currently there are discussed provisions about third-party risk assessments in the proposal for the CSA Cybersecurity Act update that is currently discussed at EU level. They are talking about blacklisting some high-risk suppliers. And this is a very sensitive issue, and it needs to be tackled with a lot of caution, in my opinion. If you look closely, we had that, or the glimpse of that was already there in the NIS2, because the NIS cooperation group had or has the task to make risk assessments on supply chain, and the Commission has the task to identify which suppliers or which products will be subjected to this risk assessment. And The result of this risk assessment, of course, will be used by the entities in order to assess who is safe, who is not safe, who should I work with, and what kind of products should I avoid because they imply risks, and they are not talking only about technical risks, they are talking about and they need to take into consideration non-technical risks also. So it's a very nice idea on paper. It's very hard to actually implement it, and we are very aware of that. And what we want to work on in the next period of time is to first develop guidelines for the entities, and then studying on and assessing the impact that regulation on this, a more precise regulation on this specific subject will have. Then we will take into consideration to emit more specific norms other than what we already have in the CIFAN.
Thank you. Czech Bank, how is dealing with third-party risk management as his providers?
Third-party risk management is very important for us, and DORA, you know, that will help us because they are analyzing now. We were already sending all the banks, sending some reports to the national bank in order to understand the number of application vendors, and they will map after that to understand the impact. And if, I will give you an example, if first 10 banks from Romania, top 10 banks from Romania, using the same vendor for core bank application, this can be a problem or not, and that. Yes, and we are waiting now, I believe there's a report from National Bank, and with some recommendation, maybe some regulation in order to understand phenomenon better and to keep in our control entire supply chain.
Because it's AI is one of the our subject. DORA needs to cover these AI changes on the market. It was a discussion that this regulation asking 24 hours to report, but the incident is happening in 10 minutes. It's very good that it's not asking to report in 10 minutes to national authority, and because there are different things. But from technical perspective and the requirements of DORA and NIS is covering the risk issued by AI in this moment or in future? Who wish to sell? Please.
Yeah, so when we have an integrated approach like we have, so we have established for our customers one process for communication with the authorities. So whatever type of incident will raise, it always can be classified. It can be classified for, let's say, GDPR relevant. It can be DORA relevant. It could be NIS2 relevant. It could be other things as well. And there's this notification duty. So we have established a process where all these things coming together, and there we put automation, as much as possible automation on top of it. And we have major security management processes, so major security incident response management, major incident response management, because availability is still a part of information security, which is very often forgotten. And we have other security processes. We have business continuity management, which also could be an entry point for such a notification. And they are all running together in a common process, and we are putting AI on top of it. So AI is already producing all this summarization, bringing together all the pieces of information from all the sources which are integrated. So it's producing the reports. It's having all the marketing and the standards of the bank or the institute in the background. So it's following the rules. It have all the compliance built in. So what can I mention? What can I include in the communication? What should I exclude in the communication? And it is already preparing all these reports out of the box. So when it comes that really a person, so the human in the loop, like we call it in IT, the human in the loop, which is then usually a board of people, says we really have to communicate it now to the authority, and they can also be different, yeah, because for GDPR it may be a different one to DORA. They just approve it, and then all the communication is done automated. And it depends again on on the way how to communicate it, because for this and the other laws, you have other entry points at these other authorities. One is providing a modern interface, one is providing a very outdated interface, yeah, because NORA, the NIS has to be applied locally. It will be another authority, and the authorities are using other ways. One is doing it like in the year 2000 with a very old-fashioned form on a web portal. The other one an email. The third one to have an Excel sheet. I don't know what other possibility. And we are all providing this already, and it's fully implemented, just to avoid to get a fee because of missing such a deadline, which would be very stupid.
So the regulations are good mainly because are principle-based, are not rules-based, and being principle are quite general, and depending how it's applied is. Other feedback on this subject, and I have also the second question that I will add, and maybe we will have 1 minute more. If tomorrow will disappear DORA and NIS2, European Union disappear, something like this, what will keep from your resilience program from these two regulations? Something that will abolish, or will keep everything? Mainly the clients, banking clients are asking authority, maybe. Please.
I would like to comment a little bit about the AI. AI is just another instrument. Yeah, definitely. From the risk taxonomy perspective, maybe it's a kind of transversal risk, but at the end of the day, it's just another instrument. Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's AI, if it's ServiceNow, or whatever instrument that we are using that could cause an incident or could be I would say the trigger for a specific incident. So from this perspective, with or without AI, DORA definitely covers the incident itself. So it's just it's just a different instrument. On the other perspective, I would say, as I said also before, it's not a matter of DORA bringing something completely new into the picture. Yeah, it's just how to prepare yourself to be in the business for the next 5-10 years or not. It's just a matter of the risk appetite that you might have. So from this respect, with or without DORA, as I said, we have to be in the market. We have to have the client's trust, and therefore, as I said, DORA just brings some clarity for some points and just make the puzzle easier.
It's good for maybe for smaller entities who need to improve their maturity. Yeah. Please.
I will try to add another angle to this discussion when it comes to the implementation of AI, and this is the, let's say, risk of using AI without knowing how to use it properly. Most of our users that I've seen are interacting with AI as a chatbot primarily, and I feel that this is the most limited way of using it and abusing it at the same time. Also at the same time, this is introducing a very big risk. Probably it has been addressed already, the concept of shadow AI, as we like to call it, which for companies that are primarily relying on public chatbot services like ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini most likely, are going to have a very difficult time explaining how most of their sensitive data are going directly to this organization without any proper measures. At the same time, another issue is that we don't have a similar sized environment where we can we can interact with in Europe, for instance. We don't have a chatbot at the same size or capabilities with them. So the first question is, if we are buying licenses for all our employees to use it during their jobs, we are publishing all the information there, then why we are talking about cybersecurity and risks right now.
Thank you. Mr. Rebegea, and the authority at the end have a finish remarks.
It's very important, as my colleagues already explained us, we are not discussing about AI as entity, as a dedicated service.
Some people are thinking that AI is something...
From my point of view, at least now, no. We are discussing about to help existing services, to update existing services. And most important things from all this conglomerate, it's about outsourcing, okay? We discussed about, when we discussed about AI, we discussed about mainly outsourcing. This is the main problem, outsourcing. GDPR, clients' data, all of this, but as already explained also my colleagues, all of these are included in DORA. If we are discussing, we have a lot of regulation. European Bank Authority, if we're discussing about regulament to change from National Bank, all of this
AI Act.
AI Act, we know that we have a deadline for AI Act, and we already discussed internally, and it's very important, a big important component for this is awareness and training for all our colleagues. Okay? Very important is mindset of our colleagues, people, human resource. This is most important in all this ecosystem.
Finally, we are going to people and professionals.
Yes, it's very important. This is most important, our colleagues. Because if we are looking in the legacy, traditional infra and security, around 80% of fraud are made directly or not by our colleagues with elevated rights or whatever.
Thank you very much. And the final words from the NSC.
Thank you. So, in my opinion, in terms of risks, we can look at AI as an enhancer, maybe, of risks, or maybe a tool that can help us to deal with them better. But I personally don't see AI as a very new, out of the scope risk that can be addressed with very specific cybersecurity requirements. So the basic cybersecurity requirements also cover the risks posed by AI, at this point at least. But to answer to the second question, which is a very interesting one, I believe that NIS2 was a very welcome piece of legislation for the member states and also for Romania. What I would do if I were to decide, if NIS2 wasn't mandatory to transpose anymore, I would actually extend NIS2 to more sectors. Maybe there are some things that can be simplified, such as identifying the entities, can be a more simpler
like a cyber hygiene, in fact,
assessment. And of course, the requirements can be or should be in the future more specific, sector-specific, to deal with different cybersecurity needs for each type of business models, as I said before. But in the essence, I believe that this is a very good baseline cybersecurity requirement for the whole of society right now.
Thank you very much. After final word is the end word of Hugo.
So thank you very much to all the panelists, because we are just before the lunch break and we should not, delay this moment. It was a marvelous panel from my side. So thank you very much to Călin Rangu, Cristian Rebegea, CISO Czech Bank, Gabriel Dinu, Deputy Director, National Cybersecurity Director of Romania, Andrei Avadanei, Director General BIT Sentinel, Cristian Goiceanu, CISO, BCR, și Martin Pscheidl, Executive Enterprise Architect ServiceNow.